He about to set it on. This how you get that glow. That dew fresh, straight out the mother's womb. That's how you can't tell how old you really are because you stay fresh. Ow! All right, I'm done. Your name, yes, Camille Brown, and you're watching The Good Life. What was yours? The Good Life Online Radio Show?
No,
The Good Life with Adiaga and Shay.
Yes, there you go.
You're watching The Good Life with Adiaga and Shay. This is Camille.
This is Camille A. Brown.
Wait.
And you're... Oh, okay. This is Camille A. Brown, and you're watching The Good Life with Adiaga and Shay.
Go get it.
Every single day, something's gonna come your way, good or bad. You need to hang your
Camille,
head.
I feel like I've been watching you for so very long. And do good as if you don't know, Camille and I went to high school together.
LAG.
At LAG, LaGuardia, and I just feel like I've watched you blossom. I've watched you grow and stretch and become this amazing thing. I can't even put any words around what you are because you have so many different facets to you. But really, talk to me about the process of becoming the Camille A. Brown we see today, because we would be remiss to think that you just danced your way on up to the top.
Oh, yes. Yes, we would. Yes, we would.
So please, talk to us about that.
Yeah, well, after LaGuardia, I went to University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and I guess from the very beginning of dancing, well, not necessarily the beginning of dancing, but I always loved to move. I always loved to express my body through that. As you can hear, I have a very small voice, so a lot of times I would get teased when I was younger, so I didn't necessarily want to talk a lot. So the way that I wanted to express myself was through movement. And then as I was growing up, as it got more serious, and I really understood what it meant to be a dancer in the dance world, I also realized that there was this thing called the ideal body that I at times was told I didn't fit into. So when I got to college, a lot of choreographers, I wasn't even called to audition for the choreographers, and a lot of times it was because they knew I wouldn't fit the costume. It was about the ideal. So at the time I had my composition and improv classes, and that's where they teach you how to make your own dances. And before then I didn't really get it because I was conditioned to be a dancer and give the choreographer something. But it wasn't until that's all I had was where I found my own voice. And that's when I said, wow, I don't have to wait for a choreographer. I can just go and create my own voice. So it was actually in college that I started really understanding the power of language and what that is in my body. And junior year and senior year, your body changes, you start getting cast in things, and it was great because I was able to work with other choreographers, but it was beautiful because I said, wow, I have found something along with this other side.
Right. How did you work through those body image issues that were pretty much placed upon you at the time?
Well, I cried. But I said, I didn't want anyone to determine where I was going to go, so I had my teachers that I called I call my angels, that were the ones that really focused on my body. They saw that there was talent there, and they really pushed me. And then I had the teachers that looked at me once and was like, she's not going to be a dancer, and they kept going. So while I was in those classes, I said to myself, okay, any notes that they give everyone else, just take the note.
Right.
So I just started correcting myself. So that's how I tried to work through it, instead of being defeated. And I'm not saying it was easy. It's always hurtful when when you want something so bad and you feel like people aren't giving you the information you need in order to get it.
Wow.
And I am not a teacher, so me correcting myself even sounds crazy, but I wasn't gonna let anybody stop me.
Now, you just said you are not a teacher, but you are.
At the time,
At the time, so how did you make that transition? From what is the transition? What does it consist of from being student, dancer, to artistic director, choreographer?
Yeah.
What is that transition? What do you have to do internally to make that transition?
Well, it depends. Teaching goes along with what I do because I teach a combination. I call my movement a jambalaya of things. So it's hip hop, it's modern, it's jazz, it's African, it's ballet. and it's also African American social dances as well. So it's important for me. I don't teach often, but it's important for me as I am creating my work to also provide an entry point for other people so they can understand the language in their bodies. And you can do that. Some people just go into straight teaching. Some people go into dancing. But teaching is also a way to supplement your income too. So that's one of the things that I did when I was starting out. I do less of it now, but that's really what the driving force of that is.
So what informed your work early on as a choreographer? How did you decide this is the story that I want to tell, this is the body of work that I want to embark upon?
Yeah, I danced after graduation. I danced with Ronald K. Brown Evidence. So I was really inspired by his work and his approach to creating work. I was also inspired by Diane McIntyre. I did a project for her in 2008, and when I was in her process as a dancer, I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly how I want my process to be. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So that's really, and it's like trial and error too. There are things that I had to learn on the spot. I was on a panel a couple of days ago, and one of the panelists said, sometimes you really don't know that's not the direction you want to go unless you go to that and realize it. So it was a lot of, oh, that's not what I want to do. Oh, that's not, oh, this is right of that. And it's just building. And then it's also, you have to stand firm on what, it's almost like for me, I have to shift my career the way I want it to go. So in essence, that does mean possibly losing out on other things because I don't teach as much, but because that's not really my love. My love is more theater, and it's working on my company. So it means sometimes having to turn down some of those teaching gigs and there's a loss there, money wise. But sometimes you have to take that leap in order to shift it, and you have to tell the space, tell the universe, this is where I want my career to go, and you hope that you get heard.
But that was a huge leap that you took. I mean, just believing in the fact that you have something to offer, you have something to add to the industry. Was there ever a time in which you did not believe in your vision, in your own voice?
All the time. All the time. I think there's always, for me, there's that, you have to have a certain amount of confidence to put out your work, but then on the flip side, you're opening yourself up to judgment, to opinions, to perception, and some of it is hurtful, some of it is very encouraging, and you're balancing those two. You're balancing the people that get it, balancing the people that don't get it, the people that don't like you, don't like your work, don't like what you stand for, versus the people that love you and are behind you. So it's a constant shift, and I'm constantly humbled by situations in the most amazing way. But I've always doubted myself. I've always had that doubt. I've always felt like I needed to fight, and part of that fight had that layer of doubt underneath because I was told I wasn't good enough. So I think part of that is still there, and it's constantly suppressing that so you can stay focused.
So what was the breakthrough that you had to get to the other side of that?
I think it was looking at how people, particularly reviewers, take in work that's rooted in culture, and realizing that is a certain gaze, but that's not the only gaze. And the gaze that I know, I don't necessarily see getting that same amount of exposure, which means that I am caring far less about wanting to please them, wanting them to like it. And also the education part of dance. I think that there's an imbalance within the dance education system in terms of what we are taught, how dance has come about. I was taught about Louis XIV and how he created square dances, with St. Denis and Ted Shawn, and but I wasn't taught about necessarily the African roots and the Middle Passage and what happened during that time. And then when they got to the plantation, there was the ring shout and there was the buzzard loop and all of these other things
left out of your education.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And but it's up to me that I found to challenge the system, you know, because that's just one way. But it's also, there are also other things, and I think it's about having a toolkit. You don't necessarily have to be, you know, you don't necessarily have to want to go to New York City Ballet and be in the company to understand what an arabesque is or a leap. You know, it's almost like you want to be a master of awareness in the dance world. And if you're not, then really, how are you making that path clear for yourself if you haven't been given all of the right tools? And then if you're taught a certain way, then when another form of dance comes your way, how are you perceiving that dance? Because you're not conditioned to look at it from a certain way.
Do you feel that do you find that to be true, that in your industry there's like a hierarchy in terms of, well, this type of dance is a little bit more respected than this form of dance? Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I find that to be true. I think that there is, I always ask, what is the definition of ability? Ability is, yes, you have your legs here and your feet are here and you can do these leaps. That's just one aspect of ability. Ability can be spinning on your head. Ability can be, you know, moving your back. Ability could be if they're doing Irish step, you know, the syncopation and the precision. So sometimes that the European aspect, I feel, is lifted up a little more and exposed more, which means the other things aren't given that what they should as technique. Hip hop is a technique. And I've heard many people say, oh, they're just moving their hands around. They're just moving.
Right. They don't understand.
You know, you don't understand.
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
people, they take class to, this is like a craft that people are honing. So I definitely think that, and I don't know if it's in theater too, but...
it's a language in a sense,
definitely. How do you invite your audience members to go on the journey with you?
Well, people are shocked that we're taking the turn that we're talking about it the way we're talking about it. People think it's that same angry black female trope. You know, what it is, it's going to be a lot of attitude,
because
anger,
it's black girl.
Stereotype.
I'm hurt, I'm devastated, you know, it's trauma. And that's part, that's aspect of life, you know, but that's not just the only way to tell our story. It's not through trauma. There are other ways, there are other ways that we can tell our story. And where's the joy in our narratives when we look out in the media? How much of it is us fighting each other and looking like we don't know how to resolve conflict, and how much of it is what I know it to be also, like, you my sister, I'm mad at you, but we're gonna be together, okay? I'm not.
But that's the story. I believe that is the story that needs to be told that we have not seen.
It definitely is, and breaking down that stereotype where when you see black girl, your connotation is not always angry. It's not combative. It is, and the work that you're doing in telling that story is definitely something to be applauded.
Thank you.
We saw that you were recently a TED fellow.
I was.
Yes.
Amazing.
What was that? How was that? Tell us about that journey, because TED conferences all happening all over the world, and to be invited must have been an honor.
Yeah, I did a talk. I did a 4-minute talk.
Yes.
And I actually performed too.
Awesome.
So it was exciting. It was a hard road because I had never presented in that way. Usually I have a question and answer kind of conversation with people, but that was just me just telling my story. And you have 4 minutes to do it, so what are you going to say? And how are you going to get people to know who you are? So that was hard, trying to feel that out. I definitely hope I get other chances to do it because I learned a lot. And performing in front of this new audience was really amazing.
Well, who was the audience? What did their demographic look like?
Just majority white.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and male, female. I think it was more male, maybe.
Interesting.
But yeah, that was the demographic. So I think it was important for there to be a representation of black girls, and there actually
Yes.
were a lot of representations of black girls.
Yes.
There were a physicist and a photographer,
Awesome.
and I mean, it was just really beautiful. Singer, I mean, and we were all together, and it was like, yes, this is the sisterhood
Yeah.
that everyone needs to see.
Definitely, and that's great that that was represented on stage for that demographic
Yeah.
to witness, because a lot of times they're not seeing that every day.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yep.
Where was your TED Talk?
It was in Vancouver. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a whole different
Yeah.
environment.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, and we got to sit in on some of the main stage talks that were happening, and it was just a very, I felt very honored and very humbled to be there. And it was like that doubt that comes in. Why am I here?
Huh.
Why am I up here? Who am I?
Wait a minute.
You
So
know?
Camille Brown still asks herself, is she good enough?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, it probably crossed my mind during this rehearsal while I was giving notes to Beatrice and Fauna. Is this good enough? You know, even when you come on your birthday, is it going to be enough? Are you going to see yourself? You know, is that going to really be a birthday gift to you and black girls?
Somebody would never think, watching you, who is familiar with your work and who's looking up to you, who would even try to emulate your career. No one, that little girl that's watching you is not even thinking that you're thinking, are you good enough? And I think it's like, how many awards does Camille need?
Yeah.
How many press releases? What will it take for you to feel as if this is good?
Yeah.
This is good seed that I'm planting into the ground.
I think if once I had all of my awards on the wall, and one day I just walked in and took them all down, and I just stared at the wall, and it's still blank with the exception of like one picture or something. And I asked myself, are you going to be okay if you don't get any more awards? And that's it. And I feel like that's what it boils down to. It has to come from here, and because there is a hierarchy, because of the imbalance in education, because of you have to start at the root of why you loved it in the first place, and the doubt. I give myself that thing to to have doubt and fear, but after that I have to press on because it's what I want. It's not about people giving me the okay to keep walking. I have to do that even if they don't like it.
Because I've seen even clips of Black Girl linguistic play, and I showed it to my mother as well, and it was like I think a 5-minute clip, and it was so. After I watched you dance, I felt like I could fly, and I'm not. I mean, I get a little movement.
And I can't dance at all.
I get a little movement, but I just felt so inspired. It's you take so many different chances and risks, and you don't do anything in a box. Like when you come to a Camille A. Brown production, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect. One thing I do know, that I will get quality, and I will be taken on a trip. Okay, and I feel that every time your work is so rich, and you can always tell when a choreographer has done their work, has done their homework. Not just I'm going to put these steps together. You do research. You can tell, because the dance and what you do and the production of it itself. It's like a language. It's almost it's that's what I get. It's like what the story that she's telling. You are creating a vocabulary in a sense. When I see you, when I saw the clip, I saw some double dutch in there. I could see the girl. I can see the girl in my neighborhood, all the way to a woman that's trying to find herself, an older woman. All of that is in your work.
You see yourself in it.
And it's so seamless, and parts of it are so simple, and other parts are so complex.
You definitely see yourself. You definitely can connect, like you said. You can place yourself in the movement. You can place yourself in the journey. And I think that's what's so amazing about your choreography and what you've done with your company, is that when you look on your website at your company and your dancers, they look like everybody. It's
Yes.
everyone's
That's what
represented.
yes.
And I think, was that intentional, or was that just something that happened because of your personal journey?
I think it has to do with my personal journey. I think one of the reasons why I make sure I look at everyone in the room when I'm teaching is because I wasn't necessarily looked at in a room. And I think how you, even though you have your hardships, I do think that creates who you are as a person. So I wanted to make sure when I was putting my company together that it wasn't about whatever that ideal definition of ability is. It's about who can tell the story and who are the people that are able to be vulnerable and be challenged because I am challenging myself constantly. And yeah.
I mean, that's what, you know, the Good Life is all about. I mean, you are the epitome of that, because good stands for go open other doors. So we always say that life is all about the remix.
It's all about
whatever
the remix.
happens to you, it informs it can inform what you do
That's
next.
right, that's
Either
right.
you're going to hide in the corner somewhere and cry,
Yeah.
you
Or you're
know,
gonna change it
or
up.
you're going to change it up and figure out, well, how can I use this, what could be seen as traumatic, which could be seen as devastating, whatever the case may be. I was overlooked. I wasn't called upon. No one really helped me. I had to teach myself. How can I take that experience and let it inform the next chapter of my life?
That's right.
And you've done that. You have actually went to go open other doors for yourself. The Camille A. Brown Dance Company is a reflection of that.
Thank
You know, and I'm just so I'm really so very proud of you. Your inspiration, and keep going.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I can't do it alone, so you know this encouragement is really, it's special, because I know you had asked me before what are the things that help you, and this is part of it. You know, knowing that you can see yourselves in the work.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like, okay, I'm doing my job. I'm doing what I want, and it's being received. So I think it's not a collaboration, but it's just like a conversation that's constantly you want to have with your audience.
Definitely.
You never want to detach unless you're doing that for a reason.
Right. Well, Camille, I want to ask you one last question. The Camille A. Brown of 2015, if she can go back and talk to the Camille Brown back in LaGuardia, or the Camille Brown starting out at your graduate program and your undergraduate program, what are the 3 things that you would tell yourself then?
I would tell myself it's gonna be okay. Don't take things so personally, and give yourself permission to have a sense of humor while you are working so hard.